Today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I stay on top of bugs, how I catch things before users catch them. And this is pretty much how real software teams work. For experienced software engineers, this is going to sound pretty familiar. So this week I've been doing a kind of bug squash week where I just want to focus solely on bugs, cleaning things up. There's tons of little edge cases in Channel Surfer, and I've been just killing them off one by one. How do I know that these exist? Well, I have pretty good observability. So I am using something called Glitch Tip. It is pretty interesting. This is like Sentry. So Glitch Tip is, I think it's like a consultancy agency or something that they just made this kind of as a side thing, and then they charge money and they try to make money from it. But it is it's an exception tracker, just like Sentry. But what's really interesting, and I don't know how they get away with this, but they use Sentry's like underlying, like there's an SDK for, Node.js or JavaScript or whatever, and they use the actual Sentry SDK, but you point it at basically their service, or if you are self-hosting, you point it at your version, and it just works. So I was on their cloud version for I don't know, like the last 6 months or something, and I kept running into limits. Like, it was doing too much sampling, it was sending too many events, hit the limit. If the sampling is set to 100%, events are created for every single user. So if there's 1,000 users that day, and you're accidentally sending or creating 10 events, but you're going to be making 100,000 very quickly. I'm saying 100,000 because I think that was like their limit. So you're not going to last the month by doing that kind of thing. You have to be careful about how many events. So what you commonly do is you do sampling. So instead of firing an event for every single user, do it for 10% of the users. So when there's an exception a lot of people are hitting, usually 10 to 50% is more than enough to see oh shit, users are seeing a lot of errors. And you don't need to do it for every single user. This is really common for logging, for metrics, for observability, even to track performance stuff. You typically do a sample. You don't do 100% because you're going to end up needing terabytes of disk space for logs and metrics and all this kind of stuff, when you really just don't need it. You can dial down the sampling. So I despite doing all these things, I kept running into the limits, especially when I turned on logging. I could make a whole video on logging and observability, but here is the secret with AI agents. You need a lot of observability if you want to point the agent at bugs. So here's what I'm doing. I'm logging a lot of stuff, and I've put a lot of effort into scrubbing out personal information. And what's cool is the SDK, it does that as well pretty well. All these things firing for 1,000 people a day quickly adds up, But this is very helpful because you need to log a bunch of stuff. So here's an example. I decided to show cruff junk. So people come to the page. Lots of people have browser extensions. They have weird, they're viewing it in a weird device that it tries to inject stuff. I mean, there's all sorts of insanity, and all of these extensions and whatnot, they'll add noise to the logging. This kind of scoops it all up for X percentage of users and dumps it into a log. So what I do is I actually, it goes in here for a few days, and then it archives the old stuff, and that gets kind of put into cold storage just in case. Again, there's not personal identifiable information. So this is all just important logging of things that are happening on the back end and front end. So I connect, they have an MCP server, so you can connect this to Claude. So when I look at an exception, I go, hey, we need to fix this bug or issue. I keep saying it's happening more and more, or this is an edge case, but let's squash this bug. I point Claude to the exception and then the logs, so it can go see oh, I see what happened now. And it just works. It really, really, really helps the agent out. But I go a step further. So I've talked about this before. The new thing is looping. Looping is just automation that developer teams have had and used for years. This is nothing new. The only thing is you throw like an LLM into the mix, but a lot of it is like deterministic. You don't even need an LLM to get a lot of value out of like having a loop of automation running. So let me give you a really good example. When there's an exception in glitch tip, I have an action, it runs on GitHub. It looks and it says, hey, is there a new issue that I don't know about that's not tracked? Yes, there is. So it then opens an issue in GitHub. It then looks at it and tries to triage it, and it goes, hey, how serious is this? Like, should Steven drop everything he's doing and look at this? Or is this like, this is some noise from, this is some BS noise from some extension or something that we don't need to worry about. Maybe it's just a nice to have to filter or hit ignore on. So it looks at it. Claude actually goes and it looks at the code. It looks at this. It looks at the logs. It looks at everything. And it triages it, and it sends me an email. I get an email like, hey, I think this is urgent. You should seriously look at this. Now, I keep needing to tweak that because it will say something's urgent. I'm like, that's not fucking urgent. Like, go away. So it takes a little bit of like fine tuning over time, but it's working like magic. It gets a head start. So when I go in, like for my bug squash week, I'm like, hey, Claude, let's go tackle a bug. I pointed at the issue. I go, hey, here's an issue. And it could go read the GitHub issue. Like I have it connected so it could go read the issues. It could go read the logs. It could go read the exception, and it could go see all that information. Like let me just show you. It's not, like I said, I'm scrubbing out personal identifiable information. A lot of tools, they will show the IP address of like who ran into this. I scrub that. Like I really don't want, I take privacy really serious. I only track things like, hey, this was a user on Firefox on Linux. That's like the only thing I keep track of. And I can see exactly like where like what channel this happened, what video they were watching. I could track all sorts of like, you want as much information as you can for you, a developer, for a human to go figure out this bug, because you can't like watch them. You can't like watch the screen. So you need to work backwards and understand. And like, I capture things like breadcrumbs, like they clicked on this, they clicked on that, they went to this channel, they did this. And Claude can see all of this by pulling, and it could like look at this issue, and it could go, which is a real serious issue I'm trying to debug. I've been trying to figure this one out for a while. Sometimes you cannot tell. Like you as a human, I've done this so many times. Hey, Steven, there's a serious issue in production. Go figure it out. And this is all you have to look at. Sometimes you need to just like add more logging. And so there's one issue I'm struggling with. Another one. This is the last real serious one, but another serious issue. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Do you know what's going on, Claude? And Claude's eventually it kept BSing me, and I said, look, I think you're fucking lying. I think you don't know what is going on, just like I don't. Just say you don't know what's going on. Do you really know what's going on? No, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I could tell. So sometimes you just have to add more logging, so more information is here. So when you see the error happen again in the future, you can debug it. This is the thing I've had to do in production, in real serious enterprise applications. That's what we ended up doing for one. But again, the more information you have, the more information the agent has. So this is working out really, really well. Again, the name of the game is observability. You have to have a lot of like the more data you have, the more a human couldn't figure it out. This is the same for the agent. So this does a lot of cool stuff. I highly recommend it. You can self-host it. I went to self-hosting this way cheaper running on my VPS. So I am getting way more use just like logging all the things. That's working much better for me. There's so many services now that do like log draining where you can just log everything and you could query it in all sorts of fancy ways. This is working really great for me. I've managed to like just smash through a bunch of these issues. A lot of them were kind of edge cases, but some of them were more serious. Like the one I just showed you, it's a pretty serious one I'm trying to get to the bottom of. But yeah, I am loving it. I'm loving self-hosting this because it was kind of expensive and I kept running into the limits, and now I just don't even worry about it. And that's kind of the magic. Like, so when people talk about looping, or loops. It's this. You want an agent in the background that does stuff like this. Other than that, let's just quickly talk about revenue. My last video, I talked about how things have just stagnated. I had no new customers, like not a lot of movement, like traffic has kind of been flat. And then I got 2 new customers yesterday. We're in between the last video and this one. Technically, my MRR has gone up past 300. I actually did some calculations. That number is actually wonky in Stripe. You got to kind of do your own calculations. It's actually higher than that. It's more about 300 pounds. So I talked a lot about this before. What is my goal? And I'm going to do a video on this later. But my goal is not dollars, because the dollar sucks. And I live in the UK, even though I'm an American. My goal is 30,000 MRR a month. You can see I'm very far from that. And I'm going to do a video on like, what is the plan? How do I plan to actually get to that? But yeah, I've had 2 new customers. Slowly getting there. But yeah, I actually looked at crunch the numbers. That number is actually quite a bit higher. Anyways, let's see if there's any questions or comments. No questions or comments. If you've made it all the way through, thank you for watching. Sorry if I'm sweating profusely. It's fucking hot. There's a heat wave. And I actually have an air conditioner, but I had to turn it off to do the video because it's ungodly loud. It's like you're in an airplane. It's so goddamn loud. It's torture. It's like you're either hot or you can't hear anything. So I'm going to wrap this up, turn the AC back on, and get back to work, squashing the last of those bugs. See you next time.